Hello everybody, welcome back to Theje's Notebook Review. What I'm looking at today is the Acer Aspire E15 573G. It comes kind of complete with a nice ULV Intel Core i5 CPU, an Nvidia 940M GPU, and a pleasant 15.6-inch 1080p screen. Is it enough for all of your casual gaming needs? Let's find out. As we can see from the packaging, Acer spared no thrift when it came to boxing this Aspire, but that's to be expected from such a low-budget offering. At least the notebook is shipped in a cloth jacket, and there's plenty of documentation. The power adapter is tiny, drawing only 65 watts out of your wall with a cord length of 8 feet, which is just long enough. The notebook itself weighs just over 5 pounds, the display takes 2 hands to open, and the battery did not come with a charge. This, then, is the Acer Aspire E15 573G. You should be able to find it for less than $600, and it comes with an Intel Core i5 5200U CPU that rates from 2.2 to 2.7 GHz, the Nvidia 940M GPU with 2 gigs of DDR3 VRAM, not GDDR3 like the Asus X555 I reviewed previously, 8 gigs of DDR3L memory, and a 1TB 5400 RPM hard drive. All this sits underneath a 15.6-inch 1080p matte display and is powered by a 4-cell lithium-ion battery that drives the Aspire for almost 2 hours of streaming video and almost an hour of gaming. Those numbers, despite the fact that the CPU is an ultra-low voltage component, only match up to the Sager I just reviewed, which uses a real Core i7 and drives a brighter 17-inch display. Let's see what all those holes in the side do. On the front, we have a card reader and some indication lights. On the right, we have a USB 2.0 port, a cover piece for the non-existent optical drive, and the DC in. On the left, we get a lock slot, vent, VGA, gigabit LAN, HDMI, a powered USB 3.0 port, another USB 3.0 port for a total of 3, and a headset jack, so you might need a 2-to-1 converter for your headphones and mic. The outside of the Acer is coated with matte plastic that looks and feels like cloth. The interior around the keyboard has a raised square pattern that's less coarse to the touch. It will all accumulate visible oil from your fingers just the same, but it's better than average, I suppose, and the keyboard and touchpad will show definite signs of use. Again, I couldn't get the bottom cover off, so keep in mind that if you're afraid to use a prying tool as much as I am, you're stuck with what comes in the notebook you order. Wi-Fi reception from the wireless AC adapter was spot on and flawless. I might need to come up with a tougher standardized test for future reviews. The keyboard on this Acer works well enough. My quick light typing style did miss a couple of inputs, but it didn't drive me to frustration. The tilde key is extra narrow, pushing all the number keys to the left, messing with my muscle memory. The normal-sized backspace isn't worth it to me, but at least the 10 key is complete with an extra-wide 0 key and full-sized Enter and plus keys. One more thing that threw me off is that the brightness keys are mislabeled, or at least they are according to my interpretation of what they should be. Also, there's no backlight, but that's not expected at this MSRP. The touchpad is just as terrible as you can possibly imagine. Use a mouse. At all times. Steve Jobs is dead now, can we please have physical buttons again? The display on the Aspire E15 checks all the right boxes, but doesn't impress. Was it too soon for the Steve Jobs jab? It's 1080p, sufficiently matte, and has very little bleed, but it doesn't get extra bright and runs pretty cool on the color scheme with narrow vertical viewing angles. It was too soon, wasn't it? Acer likes to tout it as better for your eyes with a blue light shield, but really, they're just shaving the budget to give you a less brilliant screen. At least it tilts back almost 180 degrees, allowing you to easily find a good angle on your lap. Speakers are most often not a strong suit for Acer notebooks, especially the cheapest ones, and this Aspire is no exception. The output is aimed downward, so if you're not on a perfectly flat, rock-hard surface, your audio will sound rather muffled. The bass from Calm Like a Bomb by Rage is weak, and the bass from The Package by A Perfect Circle is non-existent. It also doesn't get very loud, so good luck filling a room. The system performance of this Aspire leaves a lot to be desired with a ULV Core i5 spinning a 5400 RPM hard drive weighed down with McAfee's antivirus bloatware. Even after you clean that off, you're still stuck with slow application load times and sluggish web browsing. As far as battery life is concerned, the low power setting resulted in stuttering while consuming streaming video, and the more hungry, balanced setting was employed for the Netflix test, which is why it only lasted 2 hours. Also with Windows 10 marks the return of the blurry text API from Windows 8. How the hell that happened is beyond me. On to gaming. The drivers for the 940M have certainly been updated since the last time I reviewed a similar notebook. All of the games had no problems displaying 1600 by 900 without black bars, and the stability was greatly improved. As far as raw performance, 1600 by 900 is your sweet spot, with mostly low and some medium details. Gaming on battery power won't affect your performance this time around, but it will only last for about 50 minutes before giving you a critical battery warning. At least it won't get too hot for your lap during a marathon session of Diablo. As far as fan noise is concerned, this particular notebook seemed to have some initial growing pains as the fan made some sort of crackling noise for the first day of testing. Fortunately, it subsided, and now the fan is barely audible in any scenario, and don't worry, it's still spinning, and the CPU temps are in the high 50s to low 60s during gameplay, which are very low for a notebook. For the bottom line, the Aspire E15 is the lowest of the low when it comes to gaming on a budget. All things considered, if you find this notebook for around $500, it's a smashing deal for the amount of performance. I remember back when I thought that the AMD dual graphics notebooks were a steal at $600, and this Acer smacks the pants off of those. In conclusion, students get a thumbs up, but barely. It's stupid cheap, is light enough to carry around campus, and it doesn't look too gaudy, but it only has an average battery life, and the keyboard is a little noisy, so if the graphics card isn't the reason why you're gravitating towards this Aspire, look elsewhere. Casual gamers can go for this because of the low cost and satisfactory gaming performance. The price performance is very distant from the next tier up, and the display isn't too bad to look at all the time, so if you think you'll be satisfied with low detail settings or your favorite games are 8 years old or more, then you'll be just fine. At least you're on the same level as Intel's Iris Pro graphics. Competitive gamers? No. Desktop replacement users? Hell nah. Home users have no reason to overlook this Aspire. It costs very little, has a 1TB hard drive, and enough RAM to power Windows 10 through all of its future upgrades. Sure, it's a bit slow with no upgrade path, but with regular software maintenance and a non-intrusive virus program, you'll be fine. Just make sure your kids aren't downloading those fancy ringtones, okay? This has been a review of the Acer Aspire E15 573G here on Theje's Notebook Review. Go ahead and thumbs me up, ask your questions down below, share this video on your preferred social media forum, and please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and you guys, have a good night.